Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to this community showdown. It's going to be Tzeentch led by Artal facing off against the Tomb Kings, who are going to be helmed by Webb. And man, oh man, a rare Vilitch sighting. Vilitch walking with the Chosen of Tzeentch is certainly pretty cool. He does give them a little bit of shield regeneration, so kind of a mini Sigvald up there in the front line. Let's see how he does. Should be fun. So for the Tzeentchian build, it is going to be Chosen of Tzeentch. Now, Chosen of Tzeentch are pretty monstrous for sure. I mean, great stats, 46 and 60 with magic damage, which I don't think it's super pertinent against the Tomb Kings. I'm trying to think of something on the Tomb Kings roster that does have physical resist. I guess they give physical resist with some magic, and also Arc in the Black gives physical resist with his aura that he has. But for the most part, the magic damage isn't really the big thing. It's just their sustainability, their grinding power, their high armor against all the Tomb King's infantry is going to be good. Tomb Guard halberds have armor piercing, but none of the other Tomb King's infantry really are good at killing armor. So if these guys can avoid being focused by, big magic, catapults, things like that, Chosen to the Gods type focus fire, yeah, they're going to grind the hell out of that Tomb King's army. On top of that, we got Vilitch the Curseling. So Vilitch doesn't get used too often, but looks like there's going to be a pink fire. Pink fire is a really good choice because it's excellent at clearing out skeleton type infantry. You can see it has 0 armor piercing damage up in the tooltip, but man, oh man, if you can pop this on like low armored units, it does a ton of damage and is very cost effective. Infernal Gateway, more for killing the heavy hitting targets. So if you want to cast this on, let's say like Kepler Guard or Tomb Guard halberds, it's worthy on those type of targets. Now, what else does Vilitch bring to the table? He's got the Twisted Twin, so as he does more magic damage, so effects intensity increases with the time spent in melee or casting spells. So yeah, the longer he grinds in melee or cast spells, he's going to be getting more sauce and doing more spell damage, which is cool. He does also have Vessels of Chaos, which when he casts, nearby units do get their shields healed. And the Paragon of Change is, I believe, a perpetual replenishment. So if he's standing on top of the unit, fighting near it, it's going to be healing their shields, which is pretty rad. I mean, definitely healing on these Chosen of Tzeentch is awesome. Blue Horrors in the back, and the Chromatic Abominations, the new ROR. We don't see them terribly often, but these guys, I believe, are just a little bit more stalwart in their melee. So they have Demonic Physical Resist, the Barrier Boost, yes. So the Barrier Replenish per second is boosted, pretty rad, and also 360 Missile Block. It's really cool. So if they're getting shot in the back by like Skirmish Cav or something like that, these guys are going to be able to kind of block those shots. So yeah, we'll see how they do. Over here in the trees, we do have the old Flamers of Tzeentch. These things are pretty good at roasting down Tomb King's infantry. So it seems like this build is very focused on just annihilating the Tomb King's infantry and then pushing back into the squishier parts of the army with their mass. Another piece that makes Tzeentch have some okay options against Tomb Kings is Screamers. Screamers are a really excellent choice against their Horsemen, against their Ushapti, against many of their monsters. So I actually do think Tzeentch has got some teeth in this matchup. It really depends on the map, though. If it's like a really big open map like Black Ark, I think Tzeentch will struggle more because of Screaming Skull catapults, Ushapti Great Bow Fire, but on a map like this where they can advance like up in the trees, I think it's going to be pretty nice. Now looking over here at the Bone Daddy's army, Tomb Guard, Kepler Guard, pretty elite infantry and more Tomb Guard as well. Double Ushapti Great Bow in the back, Chosen of the Gods, a pretty solid choice here, and Arc in the Black. Spirit Legion Buna, very, very standard kit. Arc of the Black here probably is going to want to let his skeletons fight against the Chosen until their shields are gone, and then pop a fat Faded Buna on their face, bring them down to like 40% so they can be grinded a little bit more efficiently. But yeah, overall, the army for the Tomb Kings doesn't look bad. The elite infantry could be a little bit of a liability, grinding into the elite infantry here of Tzeentch, who will have the edge in that regard. Also, the Screamers diving onto the Great Bows could be a little bit problematic, but Nahakara Horsemen can still, fight them with relative efficiency depending on who gets the charges, and it looks like there is going to be some standard Ushapti summoned down. So standard Ushapti are anti-infantry armor piercing, and yeah, should do okay against some of the Chosen and different units if they can get stacked on top of some of their own troops. So we'll do some fast forwarding while the two armies posture up and prepare to meet on the Gates of Ekron. One of my favorite maps. It's a really, really fun brawler map here. And look at that, we got two Furies called in from Tzeentch as well. They do the magic damage, which I don't think there's like too much physical resist, like I said, on the Tomb King's roster. Carrion should lose head-to-head against Furies, if I'm not mistaken. Granted, Carrion at 24 models against 40 models. 5,000 HP against 5,000, plus another 1,000 with the shields. Yeah, it should for sure favor the Furies. Granted, Carrion are more durable if you're trying to like lock something down and just kind of be a bit of a sticky nuisance, but the Furies have way more killing power. Looks like Ushapti going to be shooting across and shooting at the Flamers of Tzeentch, which were hiding in the bushes, looking to pop out and to punish those skeleton spears, but they will be taking up refuge in the tree line. And we do see a second Carrion coming out, so this will be the test here. We're going to get to see if the Carrion can defeat the Furies in a 2v1 situation. Looks like the Furies going to be getting the dive, and both those Fury units will be engaging versus the two Carrion. The big duel of fates, this is what you're all here for. The high-octane bird-on-bird action here. But yeah, the DPS of the Fury is really showing 36 melee attack, able to even punch through that super high melee defense. A lot of it's a low model count on the Carrion. We could definitely lose those models pretty quickly. But Tzeentch Chosen being blasted by the Chosen of the Gods, double Screamers being called in. Now the Heavy Metal Warriors of Chaos going to be just crushing these skeletons. Man, I really like that Tzeentch color scheme. That is so cool, and it's pretty easy. If you guys are, tabletop players, that's a really, really easy scheme to do. Like, you can do that super quick with contrasts and just, spray priming them with a metal, like a bright silver, and then just contrast paints. It looks pretty good. So the fighting is on, and the Chromatic Abominations going to be launching some Abominations of Firepower here into the King Nikesh's Scorpion Legion and into the Ushabti. Granted, they're shielded, and the Ushabti are armored, and blues don't really have a ton of armor piercing, but even still, it should do some okay damage. And we do have Vilitch the Curseling using a big pink fire right there. Nice one on the Kepler Guard. Although, did it hit the other unit? Okay, it looks like he was aiming at the Tomb Guard, not quite the Kepler Guard who were in there, but even still, that's a really nice 2-for-1. And Vilitch is regenerating the shields of these Chosens. You'll notice their shield damage isn't really going down at that big of a rate. Granted, they are being bombarded by their own demons, which makes a lot of sense. Classic Chaos shenanigans, but even still, he's keeping the healing up on those Chosen, which I think is a super cool combo. Flamers approach from the side, nice flanking maneuver, get across, and those Skeleton Spearmen do get melted. The Tomb King's player definitely needs to get the Great Bows on top of the Flamers, or get some Skeleton Horsemen or Nehekara Horsemen moving over there to chase them down. If they're allowed to keep shooting, it's going to be very problematic. Although Tzeentch is putting a lot of pressure on the backline as well. We do see multiple units of Screamers diving on the Chosen of the Gods so far. So far, they've killed one model, but it looks like Tomb Guard and Skeleton Spearmen are moving in, with Arc and Black should be able to peel them off. But the problem is, while all the firepower of the Tomb Kings is offline in the backfield and is being slowly peeled, the entire front line is probably going to be favoring the Changer, right? We have the Chromatic Abominations helping in combat. These Ushabti not looking to be in the best of shape. Chosen of Tzeentch still pretty healthy despite fighting an anti-infantry armor-piercing unit. Vilitch the Curseling going to be getting afflicted by the Spirit Leech. Arc in the Black knows he needs to cut the head off the beast, and it's certainly quite nice. Because Tzeentch isn't going to be able to use most of their army abilities if they're not doing damage via, spells, right? So if you take out their caster, it's very impactful against Tzeentch, whereas Nurgle, for example, can get their army abilities just by taking damage, and Khorne by just fighting. Tzeentch, it depends on having a caster, right? So, that's a big thing. You don't want to get your Lord sniped as Tzeentch. But Vilitch isn't easy to kill. He's quite durable. Him and his brother certainly have been around the block a few times, and they're going to keep battling the Kepler Guard. Granted, Kepler Guard do have that bonus for his infantry, which isn't bad at all. These Chosen still sitting at 78 of 80 models. They've only lost 2 models fighting Kepler Guard and a Tomb Guard unit and Arc in the Black. Crazy cool synergy here with Vilitch the Curseling, who, in any matchup in which you think Sigvald's good, you can honestly get away with bringing Vilitch. He's not, terrible. If I were to really talk about, terrible lords these days, I suppose it would just be, Tzeentch. Maybe it's time to go back and do, a top 5 worst lords list again. Those are always fun. But man, these Screamers have been super disruptive, and the Carrion going to be trying to peel them off. And, Carrion can do some okay damage. Screamers typically, not typically, always have very low melee defense at 22. So Screamers, definitely can get poked down by a unit of Carrion, who hit pretty hard, actually. They have 40+ weapon strength. We chopped 2 Great Bows get back, and the old Halberd Snakes, the Eyes of the Desert, have dug in and started to peel these units off. We do see the Tomb Kings pulling a bit of a value lead as all of these Screamers and diving units are sent into the backfield and are peeled apart. Over on the far side, the objective is being held by the Tomb Kings, but a unit of Chaos Warriors of Tzeentch is going to be arriving here soon, and these Chaos Warriors should absolutely dominate these Skeleton Warriors and take pretty much no damage in the process. But what the Tomb Kings player could do in this situation is run the Skeleton Warrior to the edge of the objective and try and buy as much time as he possibly can, to maybe get some reinforcements over there. Now, Vilitch the Curseling dropping a big Vortex. Looks like the gateway of Tzeentch going down as all those Skeletons and Kepler Guard finally being melted. Kepler Guard is such a great infantry unit, and Vilitch is still holding on. I suppose some of the value lead that we do see for the Tomb Kings is damage that has been done to Vilitch, and he's still in okay shape. And the Chromatic Abominations, man, they're going hard. And if I'm not mistaken, Chromatic Abominations also have an extra surplus of ammunition, pretty substantial. I like this idea, right? Chromatic Abominations aren't bad fighters. You could always pull the Screamers back on top of them and then fight the Carrion together. And it looks like the Carrion are going to get caught on the Chromatic Abominations, who should be able to beat them in combat. And now we get shields regenerating, right? So the shields of this Tzeentch monster. These Chosen is healing up at a very rapid rate. And the same with Vilitch as well. Vilitch's shield going to be eating a couple of those Spirit Leech attacks as we do get some Ronder Horsemen of Tzeentch moving out, looking to maybe Javelin and just maneuver, dive some back lines. We'll have to see. Another pink fire going down on top of the Skeleton Spearmen. More Fury summoned up in the sky, and the 2 Flamers of Tzeentch have been microed very effectively, and they're still very much alive. Tomb King's up in value, but they're not using the Lord Nehekara, so their healing isn't going to be too insane. And it looks like Tomb Kings did call in some Carrion to try and 2v1 these Chaos Warriors, but these Chaos Warriors are going to be laughing in the faces of those Carrion. They have 44 melee defense, 100 armor. Carrion and Skeletons both have terrible armor piercing, so at the end of the day, it's not going to be a good fight. And Vilitch the Curseling, he's coming to exact his tithe here, man. He's moving in. Looking at the points right now, we do see the Tomb Kings up 585 against 330, but that's still very, very easy for the forces of Tzeentch to get a 2-cap victory. It's not like there's any like super pressing time frame here on the points. Double Flamers move it up. Javelins of Tzeentch do apply Warp Flame, which is a pretty cool little combo. So these guys are afflicted by the Warp Flame, so they're going to be weak to fire, and then the Flamers of Tzeentch coming in. Lots of cool synergies being showcased here in this battle as those units do get roasted. And man, Vilitch did not hear no bell. His shield's fully regenerated. Granted, if you guys are a little bit newer to the game, the Protoss shields that Tzeentch does have, they scale downwards as HP is lost. So the maximum shields correlate to the HP of the unit. So if a unit's like really low, it's not like it can replenish shields to this like absurd amount that it had in the beginning. That would be really OP. Yeah, Tzeentch has gone through some changes over time for sure. There was once a time where the shields regenerated like almost instantly after they were taking damage, but I feel like once Tzeentch gets some DLC, their roster is just kind of like funky. It's very, good against some things and terrible against others, but once Tzeentch gets like a DLC with a couple more units that maybe address their weaknesses, I think they could be pretty scary for sure. I mean, they have some good core units and some nice abilities and good army abilities. What's not to love, right? The Horsemen getting in there, charging into the Blue Horrors, and not a bad engagement for them. The Horsemen might do okay. Although there's 160 models here, man. That is pretty serious. And the forces of Tzeentch looks like they're getting some momentum here. And sorry, it's a little bit confusing casting because the banners are so similar with these two factions. But yeah, we're trying our best. Vilitch running away. We do see Ark of the Black coming in. Arkin definitely would love to get a Spirit Leech right now and try and finish off Vilitch the Curseling. Maybe come around on horseback and try and break down some of that Tzeentch leadership. But Tzeentch is able to take the far side objective. It looks like they called in some Chaos Furies of their own to rip apart those Carrion. And it would take a substantial amount of stopping power for the Tomb Kings to push these Chaos Warriors off. So now we see the 2-to-1 cap. Unsummoned going to be going down for the Flamers of Tzeentch on the other side, which is a good call. Once they run out of ammo, I think that Flamers are a unit that you probably want to unsummon because they're not cheap. They cost, what, 800-900? So if you unsummon them, you're going to be getting 400 to 450 back, assuming you've used all the ammo. And yeah, it's a great deal after they've generated all their value and whatnot. But I really do like the Screamers against the Great Bows. That seems to have been one of the big epicenters, is like the Great Bows being shut down, which then allowed the Chosen to really shine and just grind and cut through all the infantry with very, very little damage taken. And you can see here they're certainly doing their thing. And yes, Tzeentch does that better than some of the other factions, right? Like Great Bows against Nurgle is certainly harder to shut down. I guess you could use Rotflies, but Rotflies are, I think, a bit more expensive. Yeah, maybe that is the tech. You could try like Chosen of Nurgle with shields and like get a big Rotfly Air Force. That actually is kind of a cool idea, but that would work on a map like this. But if it were a bigger map where you needed to cover objectives across the map a little bit more, this is what I like to call a lane map. Lane maps is where there's like two objectives pretty close together in just like one narrow lane. Like Black Ark is kind of a bigger version of this, but in lane maps I find that like those elite pushing strategies work very well because you can just like focus all your efforts, and then as soon as your opponent abandons the far side objective to reinforce against your elite units, you can then steal the back objective. That's kind of always been my strategy on these type of maps. But Flamers of Tzeentch are doing some work, and oh man, look at that. The gateway coming in, that is going to melt those skeleton spearmen pretty hard as the Carrion do get back here and shut down the Ushabti Great Bows. We do see Tzeentch within 500-600 points of the Tomb Kings, and with their shield healing taken into account, they have got to be pretty well ahead, as the Tomb Kings are looking really bare bones here. Pun completely intended. Ark of the Black in bad shape. He doesn't have too much support here. Ushabti Great Bows and basic Ushabti coming in, but basic Ushabti will be countered by Screamers. Ushabti are like a well-designed unit. They do okay against infantry, but like I've noticed a lot of these like anti-infantry units we're seeing these days also have very high melee attack, which makes them good generalist units, whereas they should really just shine against infantry in many situations like the Ushabti do. But granted, I don't think Ushabti are like super good compared to like many of the equivalents you see on Ogre Kingdoms or other factions, but they are undead and unbreakable, so they got that going for them. These Ushabti being worn down, and it looks like Tzeentch has taken all three objectives, ladies and gentlemen. I don't see too much coming back here for the Tomb Kings, as they are just going to be swarming, and we are most likely going to be seeing the dreaded Reaganomics here. There's the trickle-down theory as they summon one unit at a time and get picked apart by this super erect Tzeentch force. So these Chosen easily going to just butcher through these. I mean, a Chosen of Tzeentch would probably defeat an Ushabti unit, like just in straight-up combat. And on the other side, we see a couple units of Tomb Guard coming in, so Tomb Guard and Skeleton Spearmen, but, this Chaos Warrior, it looks like they're getting some support from Screamers, but the Chaos Warrior could probably honestly 2v1 this. Granted, they would lose the objective to the capture weight of these two units, but yeah, Chaos Warriors smash Tomb Guard pretty decisively because their stats are similar, but the armor difference is pretty massive. And yeah, Screamers going to come in for a rear charge, and the Tomb Kings player taps out. GG, well played. That was a really fun match. Cool units. We got to see Vilitch do pretty well. We got to see the Chosen do well. Flamers doing well. It was really fun. How'd Vilitch do? He paid for himself. He costs about that much. He costs about like 13, 14, 1500, give or take. So he didn't do bad. 794 here, 1200 on those bad boys. Screamers of Tzeentch, big MVPs. Not that they got like crazy value, but tying down the Ushabti Great Bows was quite solid for sure. I do think Screaming Beam Catapults can be quite good in this matchup, but yeah, I don't even know what the Tzeentch meta is. Like, if I were to play Tomb Kings into them, I wouldn't even really know what the go-to meta is. I mean, obviously, seeing the Tzeentch build, I could give you guys a counter build, but yeah, it's all over the place. Tzeentch is so rarely played that, you know, nobody really knows what they're doing. It's the Changers' plan all along. Make them unpopular in competitive multiplayer, and then nobody will truly know what to expect from them for the true chosen devoted of Tzeentch. But 1400 here, Great Bow is definitely shut down. And obviously, like, as soon as I saw the Great Bows getting karate chops, I kind of knew it was going to be GG because none of this stuff is going to be able to deal with Chosen. And Ushabti, not bad, but they're not like amazing in regards to their killing power. I think going with like a Cetra type character could be good in this matchup. Like Cetra up on a big War Sphinx, I think could be pretty badass, and he could, you know, deal with the Chosen of Tzeentch pretty effectively. So unless they're halberds, right? And then shit's just getting real wild. All right, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed that one. Thank you to Artal and Webb for sending in the replay, and we'll see you on the other side, ladies and gentlemen.